All right. Well, thank you and welcome everybody. We're going to be talking about modernizing .NET applications for the cloud. But we're not going to just go for the cloud. We're going to talk about upgrading .NET applications from like a .NET framework to modern .NET, like .NET 10, because that's a lot of things. I mean, you've been seeing all the great newness like Aspire, and obviously .NET 10 just came out. So, but you're sitting around with .NET framework, and let's face it, migrating up to from framework to newer .NETs could be, well, it could be tedious. And so let's talk about how a brand new tool can make that way easier. So my name is Matt Sokup. I work in cloud advocacy, .NET cloud advocacy to be specific, and let's jump right into it. So the thing I want to talk about today is called GitHub Copilot App Modernization. And so we can modernize with this. It obviously lives in GitHub Copilot. And you can kind of think of it as an agent that helps you modernize your applications from various stages in .NET, whether it's .NET Framework or whether it's earlier versions of .NET like Core, all the way up to like .NET 10 or .NET 8, .NET 9, .NET 10. And so it first gives you a code assessment. So it goes through and figures out, all right, I want to do A, B, and C, and maybe I have some security issues that we have to fix. Here's what you need to fix, and here's how you're going to do it. So it goes through and does all this hard, and like I said before, sometimes this work can be tedious, hard and tedious work for you, and then you can just set off Copilot and do it. Right. And so that's actually really cool. So that's the first portion. There's two parts in this, right? So there's the upgrading portion of .NET. And then once you've upgraded, you can now then modernize your application. And we're saying modernize or migrate to the cloud. So you upgrade to .NET and then you migrate to the cloud. And it also does the same thing. We'll take a look at this in a demo. It does the same thing where you do a plan, and then you can look at the plan, you can approve the plan, you can make changes to it, and then you migrate to Azure. So let's talk about it, Ben. When we talk about modernization in this context, what does that all mean? So first off, when you kick it off, you have the assessing the upgrade or assessing the moving from an older version of .NET to a newer version. And so what that goes through, that makes a generalized plan of how it wants to do things, including any CVEs, which are security issues that you might want to fix or that you really should fix if it's a CVE, because that's a very important thing to get fixed, and dependencies that you might need to update as well. Then you actually go through, and once you've made that plan and figured out whether it's good for you or not, you go through and you actually tell Copilot, go ahead and do this. Make this upgrade go. And so it goes ahead and updates the language, any language features that need to be updated. It goes ahead and does the frameworks, and then it evaluates for you. So it's going to be building the app and make sure it compiles and fixes any issues along the way. The next step is migrating, right? And so part of the modernization is we have the upgrading, and then next migrating to Azure. And you don't have to do the migration if you don't want to, right? So you could just do your upgrading, right? You could just go from .NET Framework to .NET 10, let's say, and be done with it. But if you wanted to keep on going for the Azure migrate, which, you know, I'm a cloud advocate and I love my cloud, so I would recommend doing that. You can keep on thinking, same kind of thing. You go through planning, and all of a sudden with this plan will say, all right, you know what, you have some database access here. Let's do this, go to Azure SQL. So it's going to make that recommendation for you. So it's going to make that plan, check all your dependencies, see what you need to do, and then you can actually do the migration at the end, where it's going to update the code, evaluate, and it has a nice seamless deployment to it as well. All right, so there are several different project types that are available to be upgraded, right? So, which is great, right? We can do ASP.NET applications, which is beautiful, class libraries, console apps, WinForms, right? Everything really that you might be dealing with, Blazor, Azure Functions, and so on. So that's really cool that all these applications are available for you to take from the older version to the newer versions of .NET. And so the upgrade path, as we talked about before, to latest .NET, you can add new features to them as you go along to it, and then migrating to Azure is the other upgrade path that you can take. So each of these three can live by themselves, so to speak. So you can just say, hey, you know what? I want to do .NET upgrades, or you know what? I just want to add some latest features to my application and go that way. Or I could do a path, just say migrate to Azure. So let's actually see part of this in action. I can talk all day about it, but it's going to make a lot more sense when you actually see part of it work. All right, so the first thing that we're going to have to do is that you are going to have to install it, right? And so when it's available for you in Visual Studio 2022, and I have a slide of the specific version that you'll need, and also Visual Studio 2026. And so when you're installing some workloads, you'll notice that there will be a GitHub Copilot and a GitHub Copilot app modernization checkboxes that you'll want to make sure that you have checked so this tooling is installed. So you want to make sure those two are unchecked, and then you get the tooling installed. Cool. I have it installed. I'm running VS 2026 here. I am also running the MVC Music Store application. This is a .NET Framework 4.8 application. Right, I talked to my good friend John Galloway. I said, John, do you have any old .NET Framework applications? And he instantly sent this back to me. And so let's try to run this running on IIS Express and cross our fingers. And it should come back and show us various, essentially, CDs. So right now it's hydrating the database for us. And so we can get back the information. And spin, spin, spin. And there we go. So we can see we have 10,000 days. It's a artist from Tool, price $8.99. So this is a very old application because you can tell by our albums being so inexpensive. Cool. So this is the app, right? Even available on coplex.com. So what we want to do is take this from framework to a modern .NET. And so to get started with that, all you have to do is you can, and one more thing before I start out, I want to point this out right here. This solution contains packages with vulnerabilities, right? So Visual Studio is saying, hey, you know what, you have issues. You might want to fix them. Well, let's see how we can fix them. Right click on the project and you'll see that there is a modernize option now. So what this modernize is going to do, it's going to invoke Copilot. And that Copilot essentially is going to say, all right, modernize with Copilot. We have what you can think of now is like an agent, so to speak, running within Copilot. So it actually is GitHub Copilot running with whatever model I choose it to, but it has special instructions on how to do the all the modernization. So what I'm going to go do is I'm going to pick a different model. Whatever models I want to run, they're all available to me, just like you would be doing in regular Copilot assisted programming. And it gives me some sample prompts that I could use as well. I could just go right ahead and upgrade to a newer version of .NET. I can migrate to Azure. Or right here, I'm just going to say, explore more modernization options. Hit that, and we'll go off and run. And so what it's going to go through is going to look at my application and tell me things that it can do for me. And so it's going to analyze it, discover the projects, and eventually it'll pop out and say, all right, you have a couple of different scenarios that you could go with here. And first thing that comes up is fix your security issues. Cool. Then the next thing you could do is you can update your frameworks and also Azure migrate. So what I'm going to ask it, though, I'm going to kind of dig in. So tell me more. Tell me more about the security issues I'm facing. So I'm going to actually have it dig in a little bit so I learn more about what it might be doing. So again, it looks at the dependencies that MVC Music Store is has, and then it tells me I got 7 of them. And it does the risk rating. So like JSON.NET or Newtonsoft JSON has like possibly denial of service attacks that could happen and so on. So high priority issues, and so it kind of ranks them of what I want to do. Very cool. So next up, what I'm just going to say to get this started is upgrade my .NET version to the latest. And I'm going to send that off. So now we're doing the next version of .NET, or telling it, continuing on with our upgrade process. So again, it's going through and it's going to analyze what we have for our solution. And then it's going to ask me what I want to do. So right now, it's going to say, right now I still have the preview version of .NET 10 installed. I didn't put the .NET 10 release on there quite yet, but that's okay. So ask me, where do I want to do .NET 8, 9, 10, which my source branch, and what do I want a new branch? Always good to create a new branch. And what I'm going to say is upgrade to .NET 10 and use a branch called .NET conf-10. And sure, go ahead and commit any outstanding changes. Cool. So now it's going to go run off. And once it's done with this, it's going to actually create a plan for us, which I want to take a quick look at. So committing any current changes, checking if the branch exists, .NET Conf 10, creating it. And so it's asking me now, getting my permission to do things. And I'm always going to allow in this session. And eventually we will come through. Great. And now it's going ahead and starting to create the plan for us. And the plans are actually really, really neat because they take you step by step through what it's going to do. So you can both, check its work before it starts its work, which is actually something that you want to do, because one of the things that you'll notice when you start using Copilot more and more is that you are kind of giving up the reins, so to speak, of writing code, only to an extent, right? You still have to know your code base really inside and out, just to make sure that it's not making any mistakes to write. All right, so it's asking me, do we want to take care of the security vulnerabilities right away? Yes, please take care of all the security issues. And now I think we'll finally get our upgrade plan. And here we go. So now it's running this upgrade git plan. So this is actually a tool that is running the git to generate the plan for us, all baked in to the modernization, what I'll call the agent. Alrighty. So as it runs through, here we go. And I will make this a little bit larger so we all can see it. So over here, Copilot's just going through and it's telling me everything that it did. It actually went through and it saved it as well, so I can look at this plan later had I want to. But .NET 10 upgrade plan, it has execution steps. Now, remember these execution steps, or just remember that there's 3 of them, really, that it's going to validate that we have a .NET 10 SDK installed, that we want to make sure it's version specified in global.json, and then we're going to upgrade the CSROJ to .NET 10. And then it just kind of goes through, all right, here's the settings. We're going to update the NuGet packages. And this is actually important. It gives us a reason why we're going to update it, the description. So this is actually all going to be fed in to Copilot, right? And so I'm just going through and checking, all right, is this really what I want to do? All right, it's going to change the project file to be to SDK style, upgrade to Net 4.8 to Net 10. All my NuGet package changes and feature upgrades. Cool. I could change this if I wanted to. I could take things out. I could add things to it, right? So that's cool. So the next thing then, everything looks good here. I could actually then say, continue. Now I want to note one thing. Once I hit continue, it's going to take a while. This MVC app, which is a monolith, it's not trivial, but it's not the most complex app that you would be dealing with in the world. Took about an hour to upgrade, right? So that's not too bad, right? You just kind of let it sit off and cook and you do other things and you come back to it. I did create a video that we all can quickly check out while it was running. All right, so the video, as you can see, that we pretty much are at where we were at before. We have over on the left-hand side the plan, and I'm about to hit continue with the upgrade on the right. And so I edited this out, so we should be able to run it through with the remaining time that we have in the session here. So it goes through and it says, cool, all right, I'm gonna continue with the upgrade, and away it goes. So it runs the upgrade finalize plan. And one thing I wanted to point out here is that it is using the plan, is fitting that plan in as context right here. Nice. So it's using that plan to figure things out for us. All right, so away it goes again. And this screen now pops up. Now, so what this screen is, it kind of is our home-based dashboard of how things are going. So we'll have Copilot telling us how things are going, but this also as well. And you see the progress. There are 3 steps here. Those steps correspond to the steps that we saw in the actual MD file that iterated our plan. Cool, and as it goes through, it's gonna start checking off things. All right, I had a .NET 10 SDK in there, so now it's checking off my global JSON file, and then finally it's gonna do the big upgrade itself. Cool, and so it goes along, you can check out the progress log as it goes, and this is a part that takes a long time. And you can jump over to the summary tab, and you can see the commits that it made. You can check out the project properties that it did, so it's kind of a little bit more of a higher level view of what's going on. All right. So as it goes, I want you to notice one thing. Look in the lower right-hand side when I unpause the video. You'll notice that there is no longer the stop button for Copilot. It's waiting for me to do something. So this actually happens a couple times in that it sometimes stops, right? It runs out of context. So you have to tell it, all right, keep on going. So just, FYI that this stuff does happen, that you're going to have to say, you know what? Continue your work, right? So you got to keep a little bit of an eye on it. So, all right, we continue our work and it keeps on going. So sometimes you'll be sitting there wondering why isn't anything happening. Check to make sure, like right now, if you look in the lower right, you'll see that there's a little stop button on Copilot. Let it go. All right, so I jumped ahead a couple minutes and it happened again. Here's how you can start fixing that. What I did is I opened up options, tools options, and I'm going to search for Copilot. And then once Copilot opens up, I can scroll down underneath the Copilot chat. And if I scroll down to the bottom, it has maximum function call iterations. And right here is going to be, it's going to be down right over here, is by default, that was set to 40. I set it up to 100. So this way it just keeps on going with more time for it to roll. All right. So now we just keep on letting it cook. So continue the work, and I just kind of threaten it a little bit. Don't stop till you're done. That doesn't help much, and on we go. So now we're getting into the portion where it's trying to build. It has all the code changes done. Now it's trying to build. It's finding build errors, and it's going ahead and fixing those build errors for you. Great. So it might go back and forth, and you do see that some of the build errors that it finds over in the what I'll call the upgrade dashboard, but it says manual changes. You can kind of like let it go, and it's going to fix a lot of those for you where you don't have to figure it out. So finally, when everything is done, it's going to create an upgrade report. So I'll let this spin through. There's one thing I do want you to know, and we'll come back to this real quick, but it's going to have the upgrade report. It's going to be another markdown file. It's going to be saved in the same spot that we saved the plan. And it tells us everything that it did. It upgraded all the NuGet packages. It went from .NET 4.8 to .NET 10. And right here, I'm going to zoom in on this. It has next steps. It's saying you should complete the remaining code updates. There are still some compilation errors. It's saying, you know what? I give up. You do it. You know what? Don't let it get lazy. You can still tell it, you know what, go ahead and fix this stuff for me. So read it, make sure you understand it, and then just say, you know what, please fix the remaining steps. So that's just part of what Copilot and AI dev related tooling does, is that you have to be this orchestrator now. You're now this supervisor to let things go. So we go through, does the remaining updates for us, and now it makes a new plan to do it, and we go. So again, happy, it did everything. And so now what we start getting into is the cycle of us testing it, finding some errors. These are going to be runtime exceptions, and then feeding those runtime exceptions back in to Copilot's modernization assistant and having it figure those out. So the idea here is, at least when I do it, the less hands-on coding I can do, the better. So what's happening here is we have you can't see it, the screen screen recording utility I used didn't show the pop-up, but there is a runtime error. So you can just imagine something in Visual Studio saying, hey, you have an error. So what I'm doing here is telling Copilot, you know what, I have a runtime error. I paste the whole thing in, and then I just let it go off and I have it fix it. So cool. We go on and on like that, back and forth. And eventually, we are running a little bit short of time, but eventually it even comes up and says, you know what, I had another error, and it's because I didn't even upgrade Entity Framework from Entity Framework 6 to Core. So again, you just have to tell it, you know what, do this. Upgrade Entity Framework 6 to Core, even though that was in its original plan. So my whole point here is you have to check its work several times. It's just the way it is. That's the way of AI-assisted dev tooling. All right, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to upgrade to .NET 10. Oh, we got some uncommitted changes. What I'm going to do here is delete that. Yes. And now I'm going to jump to upgrade to .NET 10. So this is my final, the one that we were actually working on in the video. And you can see that we are now running a .NET 10 application. And it actually should run for us nice and easy once we go. So about an hour's worth of work to get it from Framework over to .NET 10. But the amount of coding that I had to do was actually zero. All I really needed to do was really just kind of supervise things and kind of know what was going on when and where. All right, so right now I just have to move my database file around. That's what this one happens to be saying right here. So We are running quick at time, but what I would need to do is pop in a new database file so it can find it. So cool. So you can do the same thing over with if you wanted to do a migration. I could just say here, I'll open up a new modernize. And the next thing I could say is migrate to Azure. And what the migrate to Azure is going to do is going to run a whole new Azure migration assessment. Same thing as similar before, except I get a user interface to say you can do like add Entra ID. You can move over your data over to Azure SQL, things like that. So it's just a different user interface, and I can do step-by-step of things I wanted to do. So really two very, very related features, but a little bit separate. So the whole point is keep an eye on it, but it makes upgrading different frameworks much, much easier. And this did return pretty quickly, and you can see this is what the assessment report looks like. My authentication, let's upgrade the authentication. If I just run task, everything starts cooking just like before. Database migration, upgrade my credentials, start using blob storage, and so on. Just run task and everything starts going. Cool. And that's pretty much it. These are all the things that Azure Migration could find. File storage, blob storage, Entra ID, the whole load. Azure Service Bus, if it finds something in your app that it thinks that would be good for it, it's going to recommend it, and then you can pick and choose what you go for. So cool. In a nutshell, Copilot App Modernization saves you just a ton of time. So you can install it with Visual Studio 2026 or VS 2022, 17.14.16 or later, right? Go with Visual Studio 2026. And you can learn more at that aka.ms link, dotnet.conf/modernize. All right. Thank you very much.